Hancock's Neighborhood Market, Cadiz.
1580, 103.3 WPKY. Good morning. Time is 8:42. It is 54. Temperature is going to be dropping a little bit. I've been saying that all day, and it has been dropping because I think when I first started off, it was around 56. So now we're down to 54. It's supposed to get down to 46 today. And before I go any further, I want to say thank you. And he introduced himself one time when he came and dropped off some stuff for our Cram the Cruiser event, but I cannot remember the man's name. He heard me talking about National Chocolate Candy Day, and he brought me like a whole bunch of chocolate candy here. I'm going to have to share some of this candy. I don't think I can get through all of this so thank you so much for that. And then after Mitzi left just a minute ago, our next guest, Kelly Martin, who is here from Pennyroyal Hospice, had heard me talking about National Candy Day, so he brought me some candy. So I am good on chocolate candy. I do not have to go to the store for chocolate candy today. Thank you so much, Kelly, and thank you for coming today. Good morning.
It's quite all right. Thank you very much, and good morning to you. And by the way, I heard you talking about you doing Christmas tomorrow.
Yes.
Regifting is a wonderful thing, and I will not be offended if you need to use that in any way, shape,
gotcha.
or form.
Okay, gotcha. So here I have some nice candy to get. No. So the Pennyroyal Hospice. Now, Pennyroyal or whatever hospice. Talk to me about hospice. I have some experience. My husband's father died at the end of when he was getting where they couldn't do anything else for him.
Right.
That's when hospice came in. But so it was my understanding that hospice was there when there were no other options. But then I've heard other people talk about hospice coming in.
It's whenever the curative measures have stopped. I'll give you a perfect example that I'm living in my own family right now. I have a nephew who's 34 years old and lives in the St. Louis. Well, he's about an hour and a half outside of St. Louis. But he is dealing with cancer. And, of course, at 34 years old, that's way too young, you think, but obviously not. So he's headed to MD Anderson this week to get treatment in Texas, and they've tried things in Missouri and in St. Louis, and it just wasn't working. MD Anderson in Texas is where he's headed. Now, the goal is cure. I mean, obviously,
exactly.
and if I get cancer or find out I have cancer tomorrow, obviously I'm going to fight tooth and nail like my nephew is to make sure that I do everything and exhaust all possibilities. However, there comes a time for a lot of folks when there just can't be anything else done from a curative side. Or you begin to look at the quality of life. Quality of life, and this is one of the things I've talked about with my nephew, is so important because if I'm going to gain an extra 3 months out of life by going through all of these treatments and all these things, and I'm sick as a dog and I can't lift my head and I can't, as my nephew is right now, can't hardly get out of the chair, what's the point? Would I not rather spend time with my family to where I'm pain-free, I'm nausea-free, I'm able to sit there and carry on a conversation and enjoy those last moments rather than having an extra 6 months that I'm just miserable and can't enjoy anybody or do anything. And I talk a lot of times about if somebody tells me tomorrow, and I mean getting a diagnosis of cancer or CHF or COPD or any of those things that says this is going to limit my life, it's earth-shattering. And if I get told that tomorrow, the thing I want to do, there's certain things in life we'd all want to do one more time, and we try to do that with our hospice patients as well. We've taken people fishing one last time. The guy didn't catch anything, but it didn't matter. The point was I want to be back on the dock. And so we have the saying, living life to the fullest, and that's what we believe in doing. Whatever it is, however you want to handle your life, we'll embrace that with you, and we want to help you be able to embrace the end of life, because none of us like talking about it. I'm in the business and I don't like talking about it. My parents are 80. My dad turned 87 on Christmas Day. My mom turns 88 next month. I don't want to think about that ending, but it's the reality of life. And so we kind of view ourselves as the professionals of end of life. When we're going to have a baby, we enlist the professionals who help us have a baby and prepare the home and do everything and get everything just perfect. And at the end of life, people don't want to talk about it. Yeah, we spend 9 months preparing for life, but we don't want to spend any time preparing for the end of life because it's weird. It's just tough.
Yeah, you're right. It's uncomfortable. So what I'm hearing you say is you help people deal with a quality of life as opposed to the quantity.
Absolutely. And we want quantity as much as we can. There's not
Obviously.
any way, shape, or form that we want to limit life, but you want to experience life to the fullest all the way up until the very last day, whether you're healthy or whether you're sick. And that's what we do. We come in and people will call us from time to time, and we'll go talk to them. We're like, time's not yet for hospice for you. Mm-hmm. But also, by the same token, hospice is not for the last 2 days of life. And that's typically what people think. They hear that somebody's being taken care of by hospice, and all of a sudden they think, oh my gosh, death is imminent. No, that's not the case. Done properly, we're allowed 6 months to be with a patient by Medicare. We're allowed to extend that by 60-day increments, providing that we can show that that patient's still in a decline of some sort. That may be that it takes mom 5 seconds more, 10 seconds more to get from the kitchen table to the chair that she likes to sit in. It may be she's a little bit more short of breath. It could be that dad's belt now, instead of being like it was at one time where it was in the last hole, now had to cinch it up a little bit further. So those are things that you see that are just the simple portions of life coming to a close. And then we try to help the family embrace that, because let's face it, the worst thing in the world for us is when we lose somebody that we love dearly. And no one wants to deal with that. And I get it. My grandpa was 101 and in great health and fell asleep one night, didn't wake up the next morning, and I was like 40 years old. And I was still ticked off thinking he died too young, none of us want to embrace that no matter what.
Right. There was a news story earlier that I heard, a blip, about a man who just celebrated his 112th birthday. Or he died. I think he just died. He just died. He was 112 and he just died. And I think I heard him say he contributed it to cigars and whiskey.
Yes.
So he opted for quality over quantity there, I think.
He fortunately got both. He got quantity and quality.
True. And all stories are different. And I think, for my father-in-law in particular, because that's the only experience I've had, he chose quality over quantity. They had told him he needed dialysis, and that was going to require, I think they go in and stay there for the day.
Yeah, pretty much. And
then it takes them 2 days to recover, and then they go back on that, right after they get ready. So it really is no life.
It's just right. And it's like the conversation I had with my nephew over the Christmas holiday was that Jason told me, he said, look, dude, he said, I'm not sure if it's the cancer or if it's the chemo making me feel this bad. Because they said they think they got the cancer isolated. It's an oral cancer. They think they got it isolated, but he said, I've got this ungodly tingling in my legs and in my arms. Feels like they're going to sleep. It's affecting the nerves. What's better? And, and at some point, and at what point do you make that decision to say, okay, enough is enough. I'm going to enjoy what time I do have, and I'm going to live that to the fullest and enjoy my family and be able to have those conversations, because there are conversations that are so important when we're coming down the home stretch. Conversations we probably should have had daily,
Sure.
But there are conversations that we really need to have as we come down the home stretch. And, one of those is just simply, hey, I love you. Hey, I forgive you. Hey, you've made a difference in my life. Those kinds of things that we kind of take for granted.
Sure. And I know that in my father-in-law's case, the kids were all made daily visits, and that was, of course, there's only 2 of them, but they made daily visits, and they were all there, and the family was there. And I don't know your nephew's mobility level, but for him, one of the determining factors was the fact that somebody else would have to be transporting him his wife. Right. Would have to be transporting him to and from the hospital every day. And we live in Mayfield, and the nearest place to go is Paducah. So, a 30, 45-minute drive for her there and back every day, sitting there all day going through the dialysis. The
things that we see so often, and I've been in healthcare administration for 28 years now, and even back in the day when I was the nursing home administrator or worked in home health, The one thing that you see most often is, yes, there's a patient who's affected by some illness or something that they didn't expect to happen to them. But the person who gets an even bigger impact on their life is the caregiver.
Right.
Not a bigger impact, but almost as large. And
Right.
in many cases, I've seen the caregiver then slip away
Right.
while trying to care for the loved one. So it's a very slim, tightrope kind of walk, and it's a difficult decision to have to make of when is enough, and when do I now sit back and enjoy life and notice how beautiful the trees are or how beautiful the sunset is, or for me, it would be that one last time of going out deer hunting or, or watching my daughter throw a leg over a horse, whatever. That would be the thing that mattered most to me at that point, and being surrounded by people that love me.
Yeah. And any of us could be in that situation. I mean, you said, it seems really young for your nephew at 34. I mean, we could be sitting here talking today, and we have no idea what's inside of us right now.
No, exactly. And that's the thing. I'm in the schools a lot in the Hopkinsville area, in the middle school every week. And one of the things that the kids and I talk about is the fact that, death or illness is not a respecter of age or persons. We've had children that are less than a year old, and we've had kids that are, 7, 8, 10, 12 years old. We've had teenagers, the 20-year-old, all the way up to, the 103-year-old. And not one of them, even the 103-year-old, was ready to call it quits. I mean, nobody really is. I mean, I've heard older folks sometimes say, I'm tired, I'm ready to go home. Yes, that makes sense. I get that. But the bottom line is you want to experience as much of life and as much of your family as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do as an organization. When the body begins to shut down, there are things that happen uniquely from a pain perspective when the organs begin to shut down. So the first thing we do is we take care of the physical pain. And then, of course, anytime that there's going to be a death, there's going to be emotional pain. We have social workers who can help with the emotional side, spiritual side. I mean, if we're facing death, then we're probably one to look at the hereafter pretty closely and making sure we got our card punched. And so we have chaplain on board for the spiritual side. And it doesn't matter where you are spiritually. You can be the strongest person at your church, or you can be the person who hasn't darkened the door of the church in 25 years. You've still got to deal with the reality of eternity. And whatever you choose to do, we will help you embrace.
What is there like a, we're talking about, you mentioned cancer. Does it seem like there is a one particular cause that you see more than anything else?
For the cancer itself?
No, I just mean for your hospice clients.
Oh, for our patients?
Yeah.
It seems like it goes in cycles. COPD sometimes it's a big deal. Sometimes it's folks with heart disease, heart issues. And then sometimes it seems like we're leading the band with the cancer folks. So it's all different types of things. And there's really not, cancer is probably about a 40 to 50% of our census of the people that we take care of. But there are so many other things. And of course today with Alzheimer's being what it is and what it's become, we have a lot of folks at the end of life with Alzheimer's that we take care of. And we have certain hoops and hurdles we have to jump through to make sure they're appropriate as far as Medicare is concerned in the federal government. But there's not really one disease that you can just latch onto and say, okay, this is it. There have been so many things that we have seen. Cancer is what people typically think of because it's the one most of us deal with at some point in our life with a loved one or with ourselves. But there's so many other things there that can play in.
Sure. Okay. Now, so then since you brought up, we don't have much time left, but since you brought up Alzheimer's, when can you get involved on a hospice level? Because I know that one it lasts a long time.
Yes. And
that causes a lot of strain. And that one probably is the one that's going to cause most strain on the family as opposed to the patient. 28
years of doing this healthcare thing, I think the one of, if not the most horrible disease to see is Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. Because you have a person that you still see the same shell, but the contents is gone. And on the family, that is the most gut-wrenching, difficult thing for a son to walk in to talk to his mom, and his mom have no clue who she is, or the husband who's been married 45 years, and she doesn't even recognize him as a husband anymore. So the difficulty there is so tough. On our side of that, it used to not be as tough, but then the federal government, in all of their wisdom, decided to close that window on us a little bit. And so what's happened is now we have to see signs and symptoms of significant weight loss, of maybe a comorbidity. Maybe there is something slightly wrong with the heart or the lungs, or something going on in addition to the Alzheimer's or alongside. But significant weight loss is something that helps us as far as getting somebody into hospice. But there are factors that we have to play in there. It can't just be, okay, my husband has Alzheimer's, because just like as you said, that can go on for 10 years, you know. It has to be the end stages of Alzheimer's to where we can come in. It doesn't mean somebody has to be bedbound. They can still be up and about, and us help take care of its situation that way.
And what would you provide for maybe an Alzheimer's patient?
For any of our patients, what we do, and we're not sitters, and we're not the actual caregiver. The family is the actual caregiver, remains as the caregiver. But what we do is we provide that emotional support for the family, number one. Number two, for that person, we review the meds with our medical director and with that person's physician who's been following them, making sure that they're on the right thing, making sure that there's not something that somebody, because when you have a professional coming into the home to take a look and seeing some of the behaviors or some of the activities of the Alzheimer's patient, there might be something that needs to be tweaked, that if you're not there seeing it on a daily basis, then you're not noticing, and the doc may not have gotten that change. So we try to help in that way. We're not the doc. We don't try to take the place of your physician, but we do try to work hand in hand with them and just give them report on here's what we're seeing, and a lot of times they'll make some changes. So we go in that capacity. We do bathing. We'll do the daily activities of daily living, we call it, which is the bathing, the combing of the hair, shaving, those types of things that become difficult. We would help with encouragement of what types of foods maybe would work best, because when you get to an Alzheimer's situation, I forget that I need to eat. Mm-hmm. I forget that I'm hungry. And so to have things sitting out that aren't going to spoil, of course, but to have something sitting out that they can just go by and grab a bite helps them maintain their weight and helps them maintain some strength as well.
Kelly, it is 9 o'clock already. I really would like to keep talking about this. We're gonna have to have you back, because we didn't.
Works for me.
We just barely scratched the surface. So we're gonna find a day to bring you back in a couple of weeks, maybe, and finish this up. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I learned something about hospice that I didn't know, because, like I said, I just thought it was.
Thanks to you and to the community of Caldwell County. They have embraced Pennyroyal Hospice for years and years and years, and we're very grateful for that, and grateful that this station is up and cranking the way that it is now. This is awesome, so thank you all.
Beth is, and I can't say it enough, Beth is, I know she's my boss, and it seems like I'm just, kissing up, but I'm not. I've seen what she's done, and she's just done such a great job of making this local and getting out to the community.
Has a true passion to keep this local and keep things going the way it has been.
She does. I don't know how many times she said to me, local,
yes.
Local.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. Kelly Martin-Pennyroyal Hospice. I'll tell you what, give them let's get a number that we can call if we need.
The number is 270-885-6428. It's 270-885-6428. And it doesn't matter if you have questions, if you want us to come out and talk to you, whatever, you call that number. We're there to help. We're there to serve. That's what we do.
All right. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Here's your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast.
Cloudy skies will start the day, but it'll become mostly sunny by the afternoon, with the temperatures falling to about 46. Mostly clear tonight, with overnight lows around 28.